There's some news about Vince McMahon and his potential return to creative power, so we'll see what's being said there. We'll also check out what's going on with Raw, Bayley, and more. Let's start things off with Vince McMahon and everything that's going on there. So, Vince McMahon stepped away from WWE in July 2022 by officially retiring from the company and turning creative over to Triple H. But fast forward only a few months later, and there were rumblings that Vince McMahon was coming back to the company. WWE then confirmed that news by saying that Vince McMahon was only back solely to focus on selling the company. Well, that deal has now been done. WWE is in the process of being sold to Endeavor. Endeavor, the parent company of UFC and WWE, announced that they have signed a landmark agreement deal to form a new, publicly traded company listed on the New York Stock Exchange as TKO that will consist of UFC and WWE. Vince McMahon will serve as an executive chairman of the 11-member board, while Dana White will continue to serve as president of UFC, and Nick Khan will serve as president of WWE. So, both WWE and UFC will be merging as one publicly traded company, but both companies will keep their operations going in the same fashion that they've been running in. Vince McMahon will serve as the official chairman of the 11-member board, while Dana White will continue to serve as president of UFC, and Nick Khan will serve as president of WWE. So both WWE and UFC will be merging as one publicly traded company. But both companies will keep their operations going in the same fashion that they've been running in. So that sale is fully expected to be fully polished and completed in the second half of 2023. But let's get into where Vince McMahon stands on the creative side of things. Vince was even asked during the sale interview about where he stands in the creative process. Will he be involved as he once was, and how will exactly that work? Vince McMahon's answer was yes and no. He said that from a higher position, he will be involved, but as far as in the weeds of everything, he can't. And just a few hours after that interview aired, fans started becoming extremely suspicious that Vince McMahon was once again running things. For months in the Triple H regime, the script for Raw would come out before the show went to air, and everything was always exactly according to plan. But for the Raw after WrestleMania, plans were changing all night long as the show went on the air with multiple rewrites. Raw being rewritten while the show is on air and going through multiple versions of a script is a signature and classic move from Vince McMahon. That's how he's operated in the past, and that's no secret at all. So to see Raw have so many hiccups, rewrites, and cancellations compared to what was originally on the script, it left fans thinking one thing and one thing only. Vince McMahon had to be back involved in a heavy way. And that's what reports would later go on to confirm. They said that the Raw after WrestleMania did feel like it had Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it, because that's exactly what was going on. Superstars were even said to be extremely frustrated and confused as well. Superstars that were set to have big key roles during the Raw after WrestleMania were all suddenly cut from the show at the last second. Like Rey Mysterio and Bad Bunny segment, for example. The original script had the LWO coming out to save Bad Bunny and Rey Mysterio from the Judgment Day, which is logical and does make sense. Rey just reformed the LWO, so it makes a lot of sense for them to at least try and save him. But in the version we saw, Rey and Bad Bunny just get beat down with no one coming out to save them. And there is a lot of plot holes in that version, because you're saying that Rey Mysterio, a great superstar, a great human being, someone who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, respected by everyone, he doesn't have at least one friend backstage that's willing to come out and help him? Or like the original script had planned, his own faction, the LWO, can't come out to save him? That definitely was an example right there of one strange script change. So it's been something that the fans have been talking about and speculating on for a while. Is Vince McMahon coming back to run creative? Well, even though Triple H is still being labeled as the chief content officer, you really can't help but feel like Vince McMahon's heavy influence was on the show, especially with the Raw after WrestleMania. Things that didn't happen during Triple H's entire run was suddenly taking place out of nowhere, with no other possible explanation besides just Vince McMahon. So it's going to be an interesting situation to keep an eye on since no one really knows for sure what's going on right now. But reports all suspect that Vince McMahon is back in WWE creative in some capacity. Speaking of the Raw after WrestleMania and some of those rewrites, let's dive into one of the big missing pieces from Raw, and that's Bayley. Bayley last appeared at WrestleMania 39 in losing fashion to Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, and Lita in a 6-women tag team match. And shortly after that match took place, Bayley took to Twitter with a very cryptic message that could mean several different things. She had this to say, quote, "And sometimes the most romantic love story comes to an end. Bye." End quote. And no one knew what Bayley was referring to. Is she saying that she's done with WWE? Is she done with Damage CTRL? Is she taking a break? No one had any idea what that tweet meant, and everyone thought that we'll get answers from Bayley on the Raw after WrestleMania. But all we got instead was just more questions and concerns about Bayley's status. For the first time ever, Damage CTRL members Dakota Kai and Io Sky came out to the ring by themselves on Raw. This is extremely unusual because Bayley is always by their side, no matter what. Bayley was just always there at ringside for Damage CTRL. So the fact that she wasn't there for them for the first time ever had fans concerned again. Reports claim that the original plan did have Bayley joining Damage CTRL on the Raw after WrestleMania. But for whatever reason, she was written off of Raw, and no one knows what's going on. Of course, if it's personal time off or personal reasons, we don't really need to know what's going on, and she can take all the time that she needs. But if it's a storyline reason, they can't really just have Bayley disappear from Damage CTRL without providing a story explanation at least. And what makes it so much more strange is that not even the commentary team acknowledged Bayley's absence. They didn't explain why she was missing or where she was at. They just carried on like Bayley never existed as a part of Damage CTRL. So it's definitely not a red alert, ring the alarm sort of moment quite yet. But fans are extremely confused on why Bayley was missing and why the commentary team just ignored her existence as well. No one knows what's going on there. The only solid piece of information up until this point was that Bayley was scheduled to appear but pulled at the very last second. That's all anyone knows. So, will it be a few weeks before we see Bayley again? Is she just abandoning Damage CTRL? And how will Damage CTRL react to Bayley's absence as well? Damage CTRL lost at WrestleMania and lost the #1 contenders match on the Raw after WrestleMania. So, you know they can't be in the best mood right now. So, how will this entire situation play out? Will Bayley return with a clear head and new direction for Damage CTRL, or will the group turn on Bayley? We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.